All right, so I'm going to be sharing the most powerful self-hypnosis protocol that anyone can do. And one of the things you're going to love most about this protocol is that if you are brand new to hypnosis, if you are a well-seasoned hypnotist, if you are a person who has limiting beliefs about hypnosis and maybe wonder if you can be hypnotized, or maybe, one thing I've heard so many hypnotists say is I'm great at hypnotizing other people, but I'm a terrible hypnotic subject. I'm not good at being hypnotized myself. And I noticed when I first started studying hypnosis, which was about 5 years ago now, I'm kind of a new hypnotist, that many hypnotherapists said that I'm not that good. I'm not a very good hypnotic subject. I'm not that good at hypnosis, or I'm not that good at self-hypnosis. And so the protocol that I want to share with you, it's similar to a protocol that I have taught before called the alter ego protocol, but there's some slight nuances to it. And this is actually something that I made up while I was in the shower the other day, and I have been blown away by the results. So I wanted to share it here. And at some point I might turn this into a formal training and charge for it. So I'm just giving it to you all free today as I work out the kinks. And I would be so happy if you would message me below this video if you're watching on YouTube, or email me at lori@trancypants.com if you're here in Clubhouse. I'm just going to click on my Clubhouse notifications. Okay, I'm seeing that those are notifications from my last Clubhouse room where people couldn't hear me well. So if you're watching on video, I'm streaming this live on Clubhouse at the same time. So here's the backstory, and this is something I haven't wanted to, I've hinted at in the people that are in my groups, my Trancy Tuesdays group and my Hammond Inner Circle Mastermind. I've hinted at this, but it's not something I've really been proud to talk about. And that is that I have really struggled with my diet and exercise since COVID started. And it's been, 2 years now since, I think it was probably about 2 years ago this month that we went into lockdown. In fact, I'm almost positive that this is the time, because my daughter's birthday, my oldest daughter's birthday is today, and my youngest daughter's birthday is in 2 days. And my youngest daughter and I, we went to a steakhouse for my birthday, like a really fancy, our favorite steak place. And we were going to go back there for her birthday, and we couldn't because everything was closed down for COVID. And I have just struggled, to be honest. I freaked out a little bit when COVID began. I like to consider myself a level-headed, calm, cool, and collected person, but I'm not always. And I really freaked out, and I kind of, as so many people did, I really fell off track with my diet and exercise. And I had actually moved to a really nice apartment that was across the street from my gym. My gym was Lifetime Fitness, and I loved that gym. And it was like my happy place. It was my favorite time of day. And the gym shut down for several, I want to say like 3 months at least. So I lost that routine. Everything was kind of thrown in the blender, and I have had the hardest time getting back on track. And I'll get back on track for a couple days, and then I'll fall off again. And I've heard it said, there are certain people that have been really successful in losing weight and keeping it off. And they talk about visualizing. Well, I just visualized my ideal self. And that really pissed me off because I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to visualize. And I've always told, lots of hypnotists have this limiting belief that I'm not a good hypnotic subject. I'm not good at self-hypnosis. I'm not good at trance. And I had this limiting belief. I still actually have this limiting belief that I am not good at visualizing. So I have learned the tweak. And if you're good at visualizing, this will work really, really well. And if you're not good at visualizing, this will work really, really well. And this will work for any goal you want to accomplish. It's not just a weight loss thing. This can work for any goal. And what I did is I don't know if you've heard the phrase, I had to come to Jesus with myself. I had a firm conversation with myself and thought, okay, I've been trying and failing over and over and over. And I've tried all these different things. And this is actually the reason I came to hypnosis in the first place, is because I had struggled with my weight my entire life. Like I remember feeling the out of control fat kid in second grade. And I wasn't. I was actually a skinny little beanpole, but because I had that overweight mentality, it was like this self-fulfilling prophecy, this proof that I am a really good self-hypnotist, because I felt like I was out of control as early as second grade, maybe even earlier, when I think about it. And my body caught up to my mindset. And so this is going to show you how to reverse engineer this. And again, any area of your life where you feel like you want to change, where you feel like you are lacking, or you have habits or behaviors or beliefs that are holding you back, this will work for that area. So the things that I have been experiencing, especially the last few weeks, felt very similar to the things that I was experiencing before I became a hypnotist. And I've been frustrated with myself because I know better. I know how to fix this. I know how to get back on track. And I haven't been consistently implementing it. And a lot of it is because I've been making excuses. I've been working on a really overwhelming, that's not an empowering word to use. I've been working on a really invigorating and incredibly in-depth large project on my business for for probably 5 months now. And it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my business. And it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my business. And there have been times when I have gone and eaten something that is not great for me to eat to cope with the overwhelm in my life. And so I'll get back on track for a few days, and then I'll have this huge deadline and feel overwhelmed and go eat something crappy. This is really hard to admit in this forum, but here I go, because I think if you understand where I am, hopefully you'll relate in some ways to where you are on your journey, and this will resonate for you. So when I was in the shower, I think there's something really magical. And I know I've heard it said that many other people feel this way too. There's something magical about being in water or being in nature or walking. It gives you access to your creative childlike mind in a really phenomenal way. And if I were to back up a few days, I think about 2 weeks ago, I purchased this playhouse for my grandbabies. My grandbabies are 10 months old and 2. And I took everything out of the storage unit that's under my stairs. It's like it's all drywalled and carpeted. And I took everything out and moved it across the hall into the utility room. And then I turned that under the stairs area into a little playhouse for my grandbabies. And I put a kitchen, like a little kitchen in there, a little, I guess it's not a Fisher Price kitchen, but it's what you would think of if you thought of a Fisher Price kitchen. And I put these little baby bunk beds and bought them some new dolls, because my oldest grandbaby, Zelda, is obsessed with putting her grandbabies to bed. And I put a little table in there, and I put some twinkle lights up on the ceiling. And then I went in and I made a video to show people what I made. And while I was in there, it was like, it accessed this childlike imaginative part of me that helped me remember what it's like to suspend reality and just imagine that anything could happen. Like, imagine that I'm at that play kitchen actually baking a cake or whatever it is. Even though I'm not really doing it, let myself just get imaginative. And I promise you, even if you are 97 years old and it's been a long, long time since you were a kid, I promise you that sense of childlike wonder is available to you, especially if you imagine that it is, especially if you can just simply say, I wonder how I could tap in to childlike creativity. You'll be amazed at what you notice. And so I wanted to share that story because it's a key component of the protocol I'm about to teach you. The willingness, it's not even an ability, it's a willingness to step into childlike creativity trumps the idea that you are not good at this, that you're not a good hypnotic subject, maybe like me, that you feel like you're not a good visualizer. If you just become willing to pretend, anything that assumes trance causes trance. This is something that Mike Mandel taught early on in my hypnosis training. And that's a fancy way of saying, if you pretend, If you fake it, if you act as if you are in a trance, you will be in a trance, and it will be absolutely transformative. So I got in the shower and I stood on one side of the stream of water, and I imagined that I was looking at 1 year in the future Lori and having a conversation with her. And I literally talked out loud while I was in the shower. And that's a big part of it, because if you play along with all three of your B's, so the 3 B's, this is like the 30-second self-hypnosis protocol that I have also called the most powerful self-hypnosis protocol in the world. And that is changing your body language, your breathing, and your beliefs. And all beliefs are, it's a word that starts with B. That means what you're saying to yourself. And so if you're doing this protocol, and you don't have to do it in the shower, the key is to tap into childlike creativity and pretend like you are really freaking doing it. Like, get your whole body involved. So I stood on one side of the stream of water. So the stream of water is right here if you're watching on video. And I'm looking at Lori in the eyes. Even though I can't see her, I'm not visualizing. I'm just pretending that I'm talking to her. And this is 1 year in the future Lori, at her ideal weight, at her ideal level of fitness. Because for me, I'm to a place now as a 48-year-old grandma where I love the idea of being fit and looking great, but more than anything, I want to make sure that I am making decisions that let me be healthy and live a long, healthy, strong, invigorating life. I love, I'm a 5'2" shorty, and I love the idea of being strong. One of my favorite things is lifting weights. If that resonates, take it. If it doesn't, leave it. And that's something I haven't been doing. So I asked 1 year in the future Lori, who had achieved that level of fitness that I'm looking for and was maintaining it, and who was at her ideal size and her ideal level of health, or on her way to be, I think we can always improve. I said, what do I need to know? What should I do? And then I moved to the other side of the stream of water, and I had a conversation as future Lori, looking at right now Lori, and telling her what she needed to know. And I don't even remember how that conversation took place, but it was simple. And this is really important, so tune in. When you are in a trance, and if you're standing in the water and you're pretending to talk to an imaginary person, you are in a freaking trance. Like, if you are in a play kitchen and you are pretending to make chocolate cake, you are in a trance. Children are in trances until they're about 7 years old, because the part of their brain that stops suspending reality and lets you make believe hasn't fully developed. And you can go back and access that anytime, because the fact that you have experienced it for the first 7 years of your life means that you can re-experience it if you will simply pretend it's working. So I'm having this back and forth conversation. And every time I speak, as right now, Lori, I'm on this side of the water stream looking at 1 year in the future Lori, not really seeing anything, just pretending I see something. And then I move and I stand as 1 year in the future Lori, and I could feel my posture shift. I could feel my body language change. I could feel my shoulders come back a little bit more, my head stand a little bit taller, as I stood inside the body of 1 year in the future Lori, who had been making good decisions. And this is something I also learned from Mike Mandel. When I went to his training in Toronto, he taught this protocol called perceptual positions, and this is an NLP protocol. And it is so powerful. So you take 2 chairs and you have a person, you can use it to have a person have a conversation with someone they're in conflict with, and they can sit as themselves in that chair, and then they can go and sit as the person they're in conflict with and have a conversation with that person. Or it could be they're having a conversation with their future self or their past self. It's so powerful to get your body involved. And then there's a third person. There's an observer. There is essentially like a highest self or a wise guide that is standing off to one side and advising. And so as I'm sitting here, as right now Lori, having a conversation with future Lori, I looked over, and here I'm looking up, because I imagine that whomever this is, and I don't know who it is, but it was somebody really awesome. And I just had a sense that it was like a, a huge, big person who had my highest good in mind and who could just infuse that situation with whatever it is that I needed, whatever it is that I've been like not utilizing as I've been trying to get back on track for 2 freaking years. Um, and I just had a sense that this being was infusing me with everything that I needed and was almost channeling through future Lori and into me and helping me understand what I needed. I don't think that I ever finished my thought when I said pay close attention. When you're having these conversations, don't complicate it. Don't get your conscious mind super involved. The unconscious mind always answers first. It's like that first thing that comes to mind, and we want to censor it. We want to say, I don't know, that's too easy, that's too simple. And it always answers in almost like a childlike simplicity in just a few words, because you're actually tapping into a nonverbal part of yourself. And if you overcomplicate it and you're putting like all these fancy affirmations together and using these big words and trying to sound like Tony Robbins, which I think that is not disparaging towards Tony Robbins, because I think he is a complete genius. That's not how the unconscious mind answers. You're going to get simple, childlike answers. And I encourage you to latch onto them. And in the midst of all this, prior to this shower conversation, I had been really struggling with sugar cravings, especially. And I come from a long line of people who have blood glucose issues. And therefore I have eaten keto since before it was cool, since anybody knew what keto was, most of the time. And then I got into this place where I'm like, oh, I'm just going to have one treat. And that one treat just has created this blood sugar event that had me spiraling out of control. So not only am I mentally messing with my own head and hypnotizing myself to think, oh, I screwed up, I'm just going to keep screwing up, I'm also physically creating an event where my body is driving me to keep eating sugar, because and this isn't a talk about nutrition, but all these things are going on. And this is one of the things I love most, is that hypnosis, when you start to use childlike imagination, those cravings went away immediately. So I believe that when a person uses this protocol or something like it, that it actually goes in and it tells the body, okay, chill out. It tells those blood sugar levels, you're okay. You can regulate, you can, stop prompting those signals. I really think because the unconscious mind is the part of us that controls the things we're not trying to consciously control. Like, I'm not consciously trying to make myself crave whatever crappy thing I was craving. And you're not consciously regulating your blood sugar levels. You're not consciously regulating insulin. So when you use childlike imagination to imagine the outcome that you want, and to imagine just being playful and silly and having conversations with the part of you that is in charge of that, I believe, and I've seen it happen so many times, that a person can spark healing in the body, can regulate the systems of the body through self-hypnosis. And, one way to prove that, and this is proven in literature over and over again, is that people who struggle with anxiety experience sometimes they'll experience heart problems. Sometimes they'll experience, panic attacks that lead to deeper health issues. Sometimes they'll start to experience autoimmune problems. And that correlation, that causation is often that the anxiety preceded the health problems. So if we can put ourselves in poor health by hypnotizing ourselves to be afraid of things that aren't really happening, which is essentially what anxiety is, then we can hypnotize ourselves to let our body step into health and let our systems of the body regulate themselves by imagining a positive outcome. And so what I've done since this little shower hypnosis protocol, I'm just going to call it that for the purpose of this call. This is the shower hypnosis protocol. Anytime, and the next day I felt just smooth and in control. And that was the first time in weeks that I had felt like, okay, I can keep this together. I can get right back on track. So that first day was super smooth. And then the next day was rough. It was like I had this massive deadline at work. I felt like I had bitten off more than I could chew. I felt like there was no possible way that I could finish the task at hand. And there was also stuff going on with my kids and my grandbabies that were needing my attention. And I just felt pulled in many directions and incredibly overwhelmed. And I wanted to cope by eating. And I hate admitting this, but I think this will resonate for people. So I'm going to. And I just imagined, I looked at it and I physically imagined that future Lori, again, this is 1 year in the future Lori, at her ideal weight, ideal size, ideal level of health. I imagined that I was looking at her across the room, and I'm even looking as I make this at the spot that I looked at and imagined her there. And it's almost like my heart just said, help me. Like, what do I do? And I just imagined seeing her move. And again, I'm not visualizing this. I am more of an auditory and kinesthetic person. So it's like I was almost feeling her, but from a dissociated place, meaning I wasn't being her, I was observing her. And I'm watching just the way she moves. I'm watching her. And in my mind, she was just like doing this motion, like, you've got this, you've got this. And I imagined that being that is here and, giving me whatever it is that I need, and whatever aligns with your spiritual beliefs or with your beliefs about the highest self. I just imagined that this being was giving me what I needed to stay on track. And it was the first day in freaking months that I was able to say, okay, I feel this craving and I can be okay. And I'm going to stay on track anyways. And at the end of the day, I just felt so relieved because I can tell that something has shifted. And I created a little chart for myself to remind me every morning and every night to just imagine future Lori there in the room with me and watch her and observe her and notice her 3 B's. These 3 B's are so important. So to look at her body language, to look at her breathing, to look at her beliefs. What is she saying to herself? What is her simple, childlike, because it's not going to be complicated and convoluted. It's going to be simple, like, I can do this. This feels great. Yes, I can. I've got this. I'm so proud of myself. And as I start to notice her body language, her breathing, and her belief or her self-talk, I can take that on for myself. And the instant I just step into that different, those new 3 B's, I can start to act as if I already am future Lori and make those decisions. I hope this is helpful. So this is really similar to my alter ego protocol. And I'll briefly, I'll give you a condensed version of that, because I think me doing the alter ego protocol for the past few years, as I mentioned at the start of this, I'm a fairly new hypnotist, and I've been putting myself out there since I was a brand new hypnotist because I wanted to make it. And one of the things that has helped me most is this alter ego protocol. And I base this, it's not mine. It's nothing proprietary that I've made up. It has roots in the NLP protocol called the Circle of Excellence. And it was the result of a book I read by Todd Herman called The Alter Ego Effect. And he explains in his book that what I'm about to walk you through, and I do it a little bit different than him because I'm a hypnotist. It's not fake it till you make it. It's not pretending to be something you're not. It's actually unlocking attributes that are inside you that perhaps have been lying dormant and have been underutilized. And so what I will do is, before I'm about to make a video like this, before I'm about to get on one of my weekly calls that I facilitate, before I'm about to step in front of a speaking engagement, whether it's virtual or in person, which there haven't been a lot of in-persons lately, I will stand back and I will imagine that I see Lori standing right here. And again, I don't see anything. I'm not going to say I'm not a visual person again. I am becoming a better visualizer. But if you are a visualizer, this would be so awesome. And if you're not, it works so well anyway. And I just imagine that Lori is in this spot and that I can just observe. And that word observe, that's a really great word to use. It's a clean language word that you can use with people who don't consider themselves strong visualizers. Because if you say observe, a person can observe through sight, through sound, through feeling, through smell, through whatever the fifth sense is that I'm not thinking of right now. They can observe something in many different ways. So I will observe Lori speaking to, into the camera and speaking to the people on that Zoom screen. And I imagine this, it's like almost this infinity loop of energy that flows between myself and the participants on the call that just generates this beautiful healing energy. And I have a window right here. And sometimes I'll come over to the window and I'll imagine scooping in sunlight or scooping in magic fairy dust and just like building this incredible energy into this space. And then I'll come and I'll step into that space. And the way this ties with an alter ego is, especially if you're starting out and it's not something that you are, if you have some limiting beliefs about your ability to accomplish that goal, that's okay. And where the alter ego protocol comes in is when I first started doing this, I would actually imagine seeing Mike Mandel standing here. He's my teacher and he's an incredible presenter. And he's been a stage hypnotist for, I think, like at least 40 years. And he's just amazing. And so I would imagine Mike Mandel standing here, or I would imagine Oprah or Brene Brown or Tony Robbins. And I would notice their 3 Bs. I would notice their body language, the way they're breathing in order to project their voice in a powerful way, and their belief. And it's usually something super simple, like this is fun, or even just yes. And then I would step in and imagine that I'm stepping into Tony Robbins' body, which as a 5'2" person is quite the adventure. And when you show up as this person and you get childlike and playful, you unlock your abilities in such a unique and rich and powerful way. And you actually communicate with the nonverbal part of you that creates automatic ways of showing up in the world and say, it's safe to shine. It's safe to show up in this way. Okay, I feel like I've kind of, I've gotten a little bit enthusiastic here. I'm super excited about this protocol. So what I would love is if you are watching on YouTube, I get notifications when people comment on my YouTube videos, and I'm pretty good about responding to them as of the recording of this video. Any minute, my YouTube channel is going to go viral, and then I might not be able to comment as much, but that's about to happen. So if it hasn't happened yet, comment below and let me know any questions you have about this protocol. If you've used it, if you watch this and then use it, come back and let me know how it went. Because I'm toying with the idea of refining this and turning it into a paid training. But the things that I taught you on this call, I don't think that you need to attend a paid training. I think that it gives you everything you need. The keys are to tap into childlike imagination, to literally move your body, to step inside the body of the person who has the thing that you want. So, if you struggle with any kind of addictive behavior, alcohol, drugs, chocolate, sugar, whatever it is, you could imagine a version of you 6 months, 1 year in the future, completely free, and have this back and forth conversation where you move and climb into their body and ask a question as right now you, and answer the question as future you. And you have, you can imagine a third person who's just infusing you with wisdom and insight and the ability to act on the things you're learning. If you are, studying for a test and you want to be able to study better, you could go and talk to the person who has passed that test, and you could have a conversation with that person who passed the exam and find out, how can I ensure that I pass this exam? I can't think of a scenario in which this wouldn't work. Like this would work for a smoker who wants to talk to their future self who is free of smoking. This would work for a person with anxiety who wants to talk with their future self who is calm, cool, and collected and at peace. This works so well for a person who I've used a very similar protocol for a person who had autoimmune problems, and she looked at her future self in the kitchen preparing a meal for her family and feeling good and feeling vibrant. And then she got up and she stepped in that person's body, and her whole body started trembling, and her health made it incredible turn, because when we use our imagination to tap into the unconscious mind, which is nonverbal, our unconscious mind is, it's almost animalistic or childlike. I don't understand it well enough to tell you, but I'm going to tell you, when you try to reason with it through words, you're fighting a losing battle. But when you get imaginative and childlike, and yes, you can. If you're saying I'm not good at childlike imagination, I invite you to knock it off and to tell yourself, what if I could be good at this? What if I can tap into childlike playfulness and imagination? And I know for me, when I got in that little playroom that I talked about at the start of this presentation, and I put those twinkle lights up on the ceiling, it immediately put me into this, the little girl that used to go and try to build things and try to, I was hatching my escape plan of how I would get out of my childhood home of origin, because it was a really miserable place. And it just put me right back into that anything is possible mindset. And that's the most important part of this protocol, is just letting yourself pretend. If you don't see it, if you don't think it's working, just pretend it's working, because anything that assumes trance causes trance, which is a fancy way of saying, if you act as if you pretend it's happening, it is freaking happening. Okay, I hope you have loved this. Thank you so much to everyone in Clubhouse who stuck in here with me. Claire, Peng, Carrie, Desiree, Charles, Elizabeth, Jeff, Daniel, and Mark. Desiree, I've been thinking about you. I'm going to message you when this Clubhouse is over. And I hope you all have an incredible day. I will see you back here. I do these rooms every Monday and Wednesday at the time it is in your time zone. And I know a few of you are in my Hammond Inner Circle Mastermind group. So I'll see you all in an hour and a half. I have something really awesome in store for you. Have an incredible day. Please email me at Lori@trancypants.com. If you have any suggestions for upcoming rooms, or if you're on YouTube, upcoming presentations, I love getting your ideas, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Have an amazing day, everyone.